If you catch yourself tuning out, minimizing, or outright dismissing someone else's feelings the moment things get uncomfortable, this episode is for you. This doesn't just shut down feelings, it shuts down connection. Hello everyone, welcome back to your regularly scheduled self-reflection. I am Tash and this is Things We Say in Therapy, snack-sized deep dives. This is episode 9 of the snack-sized deep dive series. Just a little snackable deep dive into a mental health topic for self-compassion, self-reflection, and to improve your relationship with discomfort. So this episode is going to be about how our relationship with discomfort causes us to dismiss other people's emotions. A lot of the time this happens subconsciously, and I'm going to tell you why this is something worth acknowledging and taking accountability for. When we dismiss other people, we're often trying to escape our own emotional discomfort. And therefore, we can't handle sitting in someone else's. But the only thing that this damages is your relationships, and it keeps you stuck. We're going to be talking about what being dismissive can look like, why we do it, and how to move towards being more comfortable in discomfort. By the end of this episode, you'll have clear signs to recognize this within yourself and in other people, and how to start shifting into being more supportive. This is uncomfortable on purpose, so let's call it like it is. Being dismissive towards somebody is often a sign that you care about them. I'll get into why that is a bit later on in the episode. I know it can sound counterintuitive, but there is a distinctive difference between that and someone being dismissive towards you because they are not a safe person. They are two very different types of being dismissive, and I will highlight how to tell the difference a bit later on. So what does being dismissive of emotions really mean? In everyday terms, it means you ignore, minimize, distract, or invalidate what someone is feeling. For example, when your friend comes to you upset about something and you tell them it's not that bad, you change the subject or you pretend you didn't hear it. This could sound like, oh, everything will be fine, don't worry. Just think positive, look on the bright side, or you'll get over it soon, it'll pass. Dismissing someone isn't about having a different opinion or disagreeing with somebody. It's more about shutting down what they're telling you and refusing to listen or engage in a conversation. Being a dismissive person is most likely a defense mechanism. To the other person that is being dismissed, it can feel very rude, almost like the other person doesn't care about them, which can be the case. But a lot of the time it's to do with what the person who is being dismissive can actually handle within themselves. Feeling emotional discomfort often triggers the need for safety and control. If you dismiss your own emotions, you will most likely do that with other people as well. Firstly, because you don't know how to handle difficult emotions, but also because you don't know how to handle the discomfort that comes along with them. The brutal truth is that it's less to do with the other person and more to do with the fact that you're unwilling to sit with the discomfort of someone else's pain. But it is not likely to feel like that to the person you're dismissing, hence why it damages relationships. So why is it that we dismiss other people's emotions? The main point here is that when other people get intense or messy or express vulnerability, it can trigger our own anxiety or fear. Before I realized that this was a subconscious practice that came from not being able to deal with your own discomfort, I would regularly be dismissive towards people because I struggled to sit in the discomfort of someone that I cared about being in pain. I didn't want them to be in pain or feel the way they did, so I would rush into trying to make it stop. I would try and force positivity upon them. I would be quick to offer solutions or tell them, that it's not that bad. I thought that I was helping them by making it go away, by making it stop. But the reality is that is not helpful at all. It's very invalidating for people who are going through a hard time. We think we're being helpful, but we're not. I was just trying to make myself feel better by making their pain go away. It is a selfish practice, but it is so common because we don't want the people we care about to be hurting. Obviously, no one does. And sometimes it's so hard to tolerate that we're dismissive. And the main reason for that is because we're also dismissive with ourselves and we don't know how to deal with the discomfort that comes along with it. Dismissing emotions, it protects you in the short term, but in the long term, it just builds distance from the people that you love and resentment. Your loved ones over time will no longer feel safe coming to you with vulnerable topics if they're continuously invalidated. Invalidating people's emotions and being dismissive, it can cause people to have bad self-regulation and low self-trust, and they won't be able to deal with their own emotions either. They'll learn not to come to you, or you're helping them build a bad habit for themselves. This doesn't make you a bad person in this context when you do care about this person, but you just can't handle the discomfort. But intent doesn't always match the outcome. This is all tied to your own emotional regulation. If you haven't developed the skill to deal with discomfort and stay grounded when things get hard emotionally, you will shut down yourself and therefore shut down others in order to feel safe. So here are some clear and cut signs that you dismiss emotions when you're uncomfortable. You change the subject or make a joke whenever someone gets vulnerable or emotional. You tell people to calm down or to stop overreacting instead of hearing them out. You physically or mentally check out, for example, zoning out, looking away, going on your phone. You minimize other people's feelings, for example, saying things like, it's not that bad, or you're being too sensitive. You interrupt or talk over emotional conversations. You make the conversation about yourself in order to avoid deeper emotions, to have control over the conversation. Or you use toxic positivity in order to erase any uncomfortable emotions that come up. I have had people in my life who do these things, and it did make me not want to talk to them because it makes you feel like a burden. Because I'm aware of this stuff and I know that they care about me, but they obviously can't deal with the uncomfortable emotions, and so they shut me down as a self-protection technique. Not everyone knows these things. Not everyone has the ability to get that conclusion from a situation like that. And it really can just feel like they don't care about you. It can feel like they just want you to shut up and go away. It's like people who always just want to keep the peace. They never want conflict or never stand up for themselves or express their own opinions because they just want to appease everyone else around them in order to keep the peace. That's kind of what you're doing when you're dismissing someone's emotions, because you don't want anything to rock the boat. And for you, because you're not comfortable in discomfort, any kind of uncomfortable emotion or vulnerability rocks the boat for you. And so you rapidly try and balance it out by just getting rid of all those uncomfortable emotions. Peace that relies on dismissal is toxic, and it's fragile, and it creates relationships that are fragile. If you spot any of the signs I just mentioned in yourself, that doesn't make you a bad person. You have become like this to protect yourself. At one point in your life, dismissing all of these uncomfortable emotions was the perfect solution for your survival. But now it is harmful and it needs to be addressed in order for you to have a nourished, healthy relationship with yourself and with the people you love. So let's dive a bit deeper into why this pattern hurts everyone involved. Dismissing people's vulnerable feelings makes them feel unimportant, it makes them feel invalidated and invisible. It chips away at any kind of trust that you'd built in that relationship. It could also cause them to start doubting their own emotions and chip away at their self-trust, because they'll start to think, am I overreacting? Am I too sensitive? Imagine really struggling and you really need to lean on someone emotionally, but you just get shut down or brushed off. Imagine how that would make you feel. It causes you to lose real emotional intimacy and being able to feel the closeness and bonds that you can form by being vulnerable with someone. Relationships can become transactional and surface level and superficial when you erase that, because there's no deeper connection there. You hardly even know each other. I've been friends with people before where I had labeled them as like a best friend, but I actually knew nothing about them. They were the type of person who would shut down any kind of uncomfortable emotions, was very reactive, very insecure, very fragile sense of self, couldn't deal with any kind of conflict. And towards the end of that friendship, when I started healing myself, I realized how surface level that friendship was, and I just had labeled them a best friend because of the frequency that I saw them, not the amount that I know them. Just a little bit of insight. The brutal truth here is that if you dismiss other people's emotions, if you are actively pushing down the uncomfortable emotions of yourself and therefore of other people, you are choosing distance over connection, even if it's unconscious. But that's why I'm talking about this, because it'd be so valuable to notice and acknowledge if you do exhibit any of these behaviors. I don't want it to be shameful. I want you to feel powerful in taking accountability for any behaviors that aren't benefiting you. Real valuable relationships, they depend on the courage to sit in discomfort. So how do you catch yourself being dismissive? The first thing to notice is the physical signs. For me, when someone I care about and love is going through a tough time or had something horrible happen to them, or they're just mentally having it rough, and they come to me about it, I feel a physical anxiety and fear in my stomach. That's where it shows up for me. And I didn't notice it was going on. It was subconscious before, when I used to shut people down to make myself feel less fearful and anxious for them. And thinking back to those times when people have confided in me, I noticed that feeling. Maybe if you think back to a time where someone has come to you about something, notice any physical sensations that come up that would signal that you're fearful or anxious for them. This shows that you have empathy for this person. You're genuinely worried about them. People who react healthily or more beneficially to this physical sensation would be able to tolerate it and sit there with somebody and understand their pain and try and put themselves in the other person's shoes and walk through that pain and discomfort with them. Someone who struggles with being dismissive and shutting down discomfort will start to exhibit the behaviors that I mentioned just before. So the next step to start understanding whether you exhibit dismissive behaviors after feeling the physical sensation is to pause and breathe and sit instead of reacting. The discomfort that you feel is a feeling, not a threat, not something that needs to immediately be shut down. Emotional discomfort doesn't make you unsafe. Just sit in it. Step 3 is to always validate other people. Even if you don't agree with how they're feeling, even if you wouldn't feel that way about what is going on for them, their emotions are still valid. You can say things like, I can see or hear that you're upset. That sounds really hard. I'm so sorry you're struggling with this. I'm here with you. Then you need to practice curiosity. Instead of shutting down the conversation or jumping straight to solutions, trying to be positive, ask them questions about the situation, about how they're feeling. If they've come to you with something vulnerable, they want to talk about it. They may want advice. They may just want to sit in the discomfort with you, whatever it may be, ask them. You also need to be honest with that other person about your discomfort. That will also help you process it. Saying things like, this is hard for me to hear because I care about you, but I want to be here with you. Accepting and trying to understand someone else's discomfort is actually weirdly validating for the other person because it shows that you care about them. It is okay to feel uncomfortable in other people's emotions. It doesn't mean you immediately need to run or shut them down. It just shows that you care. These small steps, they'll help rewire your emotional reactions and responses. It'll help you start to build a tolerance for discomfort, which is key for real connection. Remember that this is all about self-compassion and honesty with yourself without shaming yourself. It's about owning your patterns so that you can grow from them. Bullying yourself will get you absolutely nowhere. Thank you so much for listening to Snack Size Deep Dive 9. It's been a pleasure having you here. Please go and find me on my social medias and tune in for next week's episode on Monday. If this felt uncomfortable, that means something clicked. Sit with it. I'll see you again. Bye.